commonalities of people who make the most money, the people who just get going. Like there's this fear factor, I think a lot of the times when people start, are people gonna like what I'm doing? They spend all this time perfecting their product or their website or their landing page. They don't spend enough time talking to their audience.
When I talk to creators who are the most successful in our industry, it's very tactically, they care about their email list more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
Like email is king. That is their entire focus, is how do I get more people onto my email list so I can talk to them about what I'm doing. I can continue to serve value. The core difference is ownership.
Yep.
Like when you're building on social platforms, you don't own that audience.
100%.
It could go away overnight.
Everybody underprices themselves, particularly when they're getting started, because there's a lot behind the scenes there. Like, I'm not sure what is this valuable or not, X, Y, and Z. Increasing price is a lot harder than the other way around. Start high, see what happens, learn from the market, iterate, and then adjust accordingly. And you'll be surprised what happens when you actually start high. People buy. Welcome back to Creator Commerce. I'm joined here by my colleague, Allie Fernando. Allie, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So Allie leads our marketing team. And one of the things that our marketing team does is that they kind of monitor socials, understand what's going on in the world around us, a lot of the content that's created, a lot of the questions that are asked around the creator economy, Kajabi, whatever it is. And I think we have some cool questions and hopefully answers to talk through today.
Yeah, and we get the pleasure working at Kajabi of talking to creators who are at every stage of the journey, from starting out, just starting to monetize, all the way up to, we have a creator on Kajabi who's made over $100 million. And so I feel like the wisdom that we get to soak up from those creators individually, but then also on aggregate with the data that we have at our fingertips, will lead to a really interesting conversation. So the team pulled together some really good questions. I'm going to start relatively easy.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get harder as we go. I don't know. We'll see. Chip Deans asks, I have a big audience on Instagram. Congrats. From posting trailer renovation videos. How do I productize or monetize that?
It's a great question. I always think about social media platforms as having like good indicators of something, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what's going to happen. Like another way to say it is not all followers are created equal. So we have a lot of people come to us with tens of millions of followers on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, but the content is not necessarily built for building a business around. And when they think about, oh, I have 10 million followers, I should be making $10 million, that doesn't translate all the time. And so when I think about what kind of content does really well in Kajabi, and what I actually think in the creator economy, how you can make really good income around like via direct monetization, courses, communities, newsletters. It's really like, what transformation are you going to enact on the people taking or engaging with your content that creates value for them, right? And that's the question that every creator has to ask. It's like, if it's entertainment, awesome, make it really entertaining. But not everybody wants to pay for entertainment. It really is, what is a transformation or what is going to change in that person's life that after they join your community or read your newsletter or go through a coaching session with you, that they're going to feel like something changed. So I think you got to answer those questions before you launch a business on anything.
Yeah, I think specifically the trailer renovation concept is really interesting to me, because the first place I would go is like, what are your comments saying? Like, are people, to your point, watching you because they are like, are entertained by you renovating a trailer, or are they asking you, how did you do this? Or what tools did you use? Or so on and so forth. And if it is more of the educational side of things, I think a digital download is really interesting, because that's like a very easy way to get off the ground running with a digital product. It's kind of like low risk as well. But I would start with like, what are people asking of you? If it is more entertainment based, then maybe starting with a brand deal makes a little bit more sense, and then moving into digital products. If it is more educational, I do think digital products is probably the right way to start.
Yeah, kind of like let the audience be your guide a little bit. Like, what are they asking for? I think that's a really thoughtful way to answer it.
Totally. Another creator asked, what size audience do you recommend building before selling your first course?
Such a great question, but so many different answers there, right? It really depends on, there's a spectrum of low ticket products and high ticket products. We have people on Kajabi who have honestly hundreds, maximum, maybe tens of followers on socials, but they sell a really high ticket product around real estate investing or something like that they're able to monetize really well. Other times, like we said earlier, we have hundreds of thousands, not millions of followers who they sell low ticket items to for high volume. I think about it more like, it's not just about followerships. It's about get people down into your funnel. Like create a landing page, send some of your social traffic to that landing page, and see who signs up for your email list. All of a sudden, if you have 1,000 followers and 500 of them are like, I want to sign up for your email list, that's a really good indicator that there's a captive audience who wants more from you. And I would start there versus looking at just socials as the first indicator of I'm able to make a business or not.
Yeah, I feel like creators have been tricked into thinking that audience size on socials equals revenue.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely not the case. We released a report for Kajabi that the average six-figure creator on the platform has 1,000 to 10,000 followers. And I think it's about 4,000 people on their email list.
Yeah.
So like, and that's for earning six figures.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any creator that has a 10,000 person audience that makes six figures on a brand deal.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And so instead of chasing the views and virality, building that more sustainable funnel to your point is I think the most important place to start. So it's like actually not about audience size at all.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think people get inspired by the Mr. Beasts of the world, and these people have these massive audiences, and I think that's amazing. And they're like the 0.01%, right? So what ends up happening inevitably is that not everybody can be a part of the 0.01%. And so if you're trying to do this in a sustainable way, do it in a way that feels authentic. I think about this like this world of digital products and digital entrepreneurship. It's not just about these voyeuristic like audience sizes or follower counts. It's like what value you're providing to them. And to your point, some of our customers are 6-7 figure heroes or customers who have limited or smaller or modest audiences.
Yeah.
They just know that what their audiences want and build into that.
Yeah, I just don't feel like a lot of creators talk about that. I mean, you interviewed Dominique Broadway on the podcast, and she's my perfect example that I use all the time when we talk about audience size versus scale of business. She has a multi-million dollar business.
I think she's made like 10, 15 million dollars.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And 150,000 followers on Instagram. And she'll be the first to say, like, I'm not a TikToker. Like, I don't make content for social. 150,000 followers. You would never in a million years think that that type of depth in a business is behind that. But it's because she's nailed her funnel and nailed that target audience.
Totally.
That it really doesn't matter how large her audience on social specifically grows. At Hey Danny Miranda asks, what are the commonalities between creators who make the most money? If you could have any creator's audience, who would it be and why? So maybe we tackle the first one.
The commonalities of people who make the most money, the people who just get going. Like there's this fear factor, I think a lot of the times when people start, are people going to like what I'm doing? They spend all this time perfecting their product or their website or their landing page. And to your earlier point, they don't spend enough time talking to their audience. Like what is the audience talking about? Like when we think about this, it's like, how do you get a feedback from the people who you want to sell things to and let them guide the way in terms of what you should build? So honestly, the number one characteristic is just get started. The other one is iterating it over time, like learning and building the next one. When you build a course or a community or a newsletter, just talking to customers, they're going to guide your future. And so I think it's also being multifaceted. Like a lot of our heroes or our customers, the ones who are six figures, they have at least 5 different revenue streams. There's different types of digital products. And so they build a portfolio that works. Like sometimes course sales are really good and sometimes brand deals are really good. Sometimes they're not. They kind of augment each other. So people who are building, I think, portfolios, but at the end of the day, servicing their audience and providing value and transformation, they're the ones who always do well.
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things for me when I talk to creators who are the most successful in our industry. It's very tactically, they care about their email list more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
Like email is king. That is their entire focus is how do I get more people onto my email list so I can talk to them about what I'm doing. I can continue to serve value. And
but why do you think email versus, like I know why, but I'd love for you to talk about why email versus having followers. Like what's the difference to you?
Yeah, I think the core difference is ownership. Like when you're building on social platforms, you don't own that audience. 100%. It could go away overnight. I mean, we've had creators tell us, Avery Smith was a LinkedIn data scientist that was posting all the time on LinkedIn. And overnight, he told us a story a couple years ago that he got locked out of his LinkedIn and had no idea why. And then a few weeks later, he got back in all of a sudden. So overnight, the top of funnel for his business was shut down. And so for number one thing is like, how do you start to take those people who are the most engaged on social platforms, move them into a space where you own, where it doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter if you're on Kajabi or not, you have access to contact them and get in front of them in a more regular way.
Like a direct relationship.
A direct relationship.
Like think about the last 2 years of TikTok drama, right? Like until, I mean, who knows? But now it seems like it's going into one direction. But a year ago, it was an existential dynamic for so many creators out there who had not done that, who had not developed a direct relationship with their audiences. And I think you're right around email. You're not dependent on anybody. You can get in touch with the potential customers, existing customers, whenever you want. And that is how you actually build a sustainable business, which is just one of the things creators have to be a lot smarter about going forward.
Yeah. And think about how many times we've heard creators say, like, I had no idea how important email was. Like, I had no idea the conversion I could have on email because people just like write it off and think it's like kind of old school. But even think about physical products that you buy. Like, how often are you buying directly from social versus looking at your email and like digesting and getting hit with those things or text message marketing or whatever it might be. Which kind of leads me into the second point of what I think the top creators, the commonality I see is they treat their business as a legitimate business. So like they're not just thinking of, again, views, virality, how I like continue to create content. Even if content is their number one like thing that they are the best at, they are thinking of what's the lifetime value of my customers? How long am I keeping my customers around? How am I like retention rates, things that like any other business in the world would think about. Individual solopreneurs who are thinking about their business in that way just automatically have a leg up in my mind in terms of how they scale because they know their business better than anyone.
I think that's right. It's a one thing I've loved seeing has been the increasing sophistication of creators. Like, I think you're right. Like, at first it was all about the follower count. Then, the algorithm kind of gets in your way. Deep platforming gets in your way. The constant cycle of content creation gets in your way and like it slows you down. And what I've loved to see is they're thinking about themselves like business people. It's an and. I use social media for what it's great at, which is building audience, but I use platforms like Kajabi, which are great at building businesses. And the combination of those two things create this like really awesome sustainability and ownership around themselves as businesses. And it's that creator to entrepreneur like migration or evolution that's been exciting for us.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. Like every business kills for a distribution channel like creators have
100%.
baked in. And so if they can master the business element, they're unstoppable. Like, but as a business, like even take Kajabi, for example, like we're not sitting here thinking about our followers and our engagement on social media. We use it as a channel. We use it as an opportunity to expand, but we're thinking about things like revenue and retention and all of that. So I think the sharper that creators can get on what that means, the better decision making they'll make in their business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the second part of her question, I just think this is an interesting one, is like, if you could have any creator's audience, who would it be and why? I interpret this as like, if you were a creator, who would you want to be like?
From a career, so I actually like the thing I love about Kajabi is the educational part, right? When I think about the types of businesses that are built on here, like one creator, I don't think I have like one person I'd go to. I'm a big fan of Justin Welsh. What Justin does on LinkedIn, I think is phenomenal. I think he's smart about the way he builds his business. He knows his target audience really well, knows his target platform really well. Like he's really into written content. So he probably spends most of his time on LinkedIn and Twitter. So it's that clarity, right? Then it's that like developing a relationship. He has the right funnel set up. He thinks about the journey of the customer. You find me on LinkedIn, you follow him on LinkedIn, then you sign up for his email list. Like that methodical approach to the way he builds his business. I think there's a lot of goodness in that. And we're really lucky to have him as a Kajabi customer. But in general, I think the way he's gone about building his brand and like business has been extraordinary to watch, and that's the kind of business I'd probably build as well.
Yeah. You know who I love is that you also had on the podcast, and maybe this is why I'm like so obsessed with his content now, is Oren John.
Yeah, he's
like,
awesome.
I just feel like he has the perfect blend of the creator world. He cares so much about the content and how it is presented and how he captures people's attention. But he was in advertising and he was an executive for many, many years. And so he takes, again, that business side of things and meshes that with his love of creativity. And he's just built a really interesting, dynamic business because of it.
Yeah, he's you talk to him, he obviously knows marketing, he knows audience development, right? Because he's on these platforms really, really well. But he also knows the journey and the marketing talk around that. Because at the end of the day, he's a marketer as well. And I think that combination of those two things is really good.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, one last question we have here for Escaping Vanity asks, this is maybe like a little bit more tactical, but what is the optimal price point for a course?
Higher than you think. That's where I start. I think it, again, varies drastically by like niche audience or niche segment, but higher than you think. Everybody underprices themselves, particularly when they're getting started, because there's a lot behind the scenes there. Like, I'm not sure what this is valuable or not. X, Y, and Z. I always encourage people to start high, and you can learn from the market starting high versus starting low. Increasing price is a lot harder than the other way around. And so I always tell people, start high, see what happens, learn from the market, iterate, and then adjust accordingly. And you'll be surprised what happens when you actually start high. People buy.
Interesting. I have a different perspective.
Oh, interesting.
I think that could work, but I do think that there is something to be said about, we have this dynamic at Kajabi where we have what we call founders. They're people who joined us from the beginning. They bought into the mission of Kajabi. They got a subscription and they're locked into this amazing price point because of it. I actually think that like using that as a marketing lever for creators when they're launching their first digital product is actually a really powerful thing.
Interesting.
And by pricing it at a competitive price point, I'm not saying you like undervalue it, but by pricing it at an accessible, competitive price point and getting people bought into your mission and your vision, you actually can have that first cohort of people become your army of affiliates, of people who are like just going out into the market and saying that this was such a valuable experience. And because of that type of review, you actually have the ability to raise your prices much smoother as you continue to release.
That's interesting. Like where my brain went also was, it depends on what you're selling them over time.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you have start with like a mini course, and then you're kind of upselling them into different opportunities, I actually think pricing lower at the front end makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And then as people find value in that, you kind of bring them up the curve, providing more value to them.
Yeah.
And as a result, charging more for that. I think that's a journey of it.
Yeah.
But I still think like people always undercut how much they're actually worth.
You're totally
and so
right.
it's something to be aware of.
You're totally right in terms of the like, that's what we call a value ladder,
100%,
right? Like
yeah.
if you have a clear picture of like, okay, I'm going to start with a digital download, but then I'm going to go to course and then I'm going to go to community and then I'm going to do a high ticket one-on-one. Like then it's much easier to get people to go up that ladder. But if you're repricing the same exact product, then totally your point stands of like, go in higher than you think.
Yeah.
We also have, just to throw it out there, a pricing guide that we released at Kajabi that shows aggregated data across the tens of thousands of creators that we have on the platform. And to your point, I actually have the numbers pulled up here. The average one-time coaching product ranges anywhere from $100 to $540.
Yeah.
The average one-time community product ranges anywhere from $30 to $400. The average course ranges from $40 to $250. The average digital download, much smaller because digital downloads are obviously easier to digest, so on and so forth. It's $20 to $50, and then the average podcast is $20 to $60.
Oh,
so
amazing.
that range is just really interesting. And as you're thinking about what type of digital product to sell and what your audience has the appetite for, it obviously all depends on what your audience is asking for. But those price points don't seem really that crazy. And that's, again, aggregated across our entire platform. But we have this broken out, not just by one time, I read those, but we have subscription payments, we have bundled, like we have the averages of what those look like. And I think they probably are higher than people expect.
Yeah, bundling is really cool too, right? That's another way people like think about, you get X, but you get X, Y, Z for a little bit of a discount. Like there's a lot of things you can do with pricing and packaging once you have a portfolio of products, but building that portfolio, I think you got to do that in a very deliberate, sequential manner. But once things are up and running, you can mix and match, and whatever makes sense for your audience, you should be able to do like a job.
Yeah, and also to your earlier point, like just put it out there and just try something.
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty of businesses, is that we're all just like throwing things at the wall and figuring it out as we go.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can literally do whatever you want. You collect the data and then you make informed decisions moving forward. Cool. Well, that wraps up our questions from social.
Great. Thanks, Allie. Really appreciate it.
If you'd like to reference the pricing guide that we talked about in this conversation, you can just click below. It'll be pinned in the comments on this video.